Hello everyone, I am presenting our paper Temporal RIT-Eyes, from real infrared eye images to synthetic sequences of gaze behavior. The work is in joint collaboration of Rochester Institute of Technology and Reality Labs and is funded by Meta. Let me start off with a video to explain what is gaze tracking or eye tracking. Normally, to understand human behavior, we want to estimate where a person is looking in the world. The video in the middle shows the shopping research where a red cursor shows the gaze position. This is done by capturing the video of the eye as shown in the lower left, where we detect various eye features in order to know the eye position and then convert to gaze. An overall process is referred as a gaze estimation or eye tracking. Eye tracking has been used as a technology to help interactions with computer understand the human being's behavior for various research studies and commercial activities like advertisement as a form of additional input for the natural interactions in ever-growing gaming industry, medical diagnosis with eye movements, for computationally efficient foveated rendering where small regions where a human fixate is rendered with high quality compared to the periphery, and to solve the problems of divergence accommodation conflicts for objects varying in depth in AR and VR applications. As mentioned earlier, we capture the image of the eye. In this work, we are interested in the wearable eye trackers, and wearable eye trackers can be further subdivided into a natural interaction eye trackers and the eye trackers that allows for virtual reality. Normally, these eye trackers have a scene camera which records the scene or renders the scene, and also have multiple cameras to record the images of the eyes. Once the image of the eyes are recorded, we use a feature detection algorithm to identify the features of interest and map it to the world. Once we have the image to find gaze, the most approach is a feature-based detection, as mentioned earlier. In this cartoon, we emphasize the critical middle step, where the eye image is segmented and features critical to gaze estimation are extracted from the segmentation. Segmentation is typically accomplished using computer vision or pre-trained networks. Common feature extractions after segmentation includes the pupil boundary or centroid. The margins for error in the process are extremely slim. Consider that the point of a centroid will span only a small portion of the low-resolution eye image, but its position is mapped onto a gaze of a wider field of view, like around 100 degrees visual degrees. This means a single pixel of segmentation error will lead to a larger errors in the final gaze estimation. To help train machine learning algorithms, there are a number of real-world data sets that are publicly available. They vary in terms of a gender, race, age, and physiology. Collection of more diverse population is a challenging task. Even if we collect those data sets, labeling is even more challenging. There is also an interlabel variability. Another issue we see is most of the labeling algorithms assumes that the pupil and iris is elliptical, which is not the case due to the refractions of the cornea. There are some efforts in the computer graphics community to render the eye images where it is possible to generate images with varying race, gender, age, physiology, reflections, and camera positions. And on this note, I want to highlight our previous work, RIT-Eyes, which renders synthetic images and helps to aid machine learning. Some of the works have leveraged the RIT-Eyes. The examples of it are LSEG-Jane and geometrical array image-to-image translation. In LSEG-Jane, they mentioned that RIT-Eyes generalizes best to the other real-world dataset compared to the cross-real datasets. Similarly, the gaze-aware eye image-to-image translation shows that model trained on translated images of RIT-Eyes reduces the domain gap and produces a good segmentation performance of the segmentation maps in the real datasets. All of this data, even the synthetic data, does not contain an important information about the temporal data. We care about the temporal data because there is a correlation between each and every eye frames. Eyes during the different types of eye movements, such as fixations where eye is stable, smooth pursuit where eye is moving slowly, following an object, interest, and saccades when there is a rapid eye movements, they follow a certain dynamics. And it has been shown that the temporal dynamics can be predicted using the gaze information. But there is no study that involves the temporal correlation set in the semantic segmentation framework. So the question is, can we use temporal information in the semantic segmentation framework to improve the gaze estimation? To help that, we have introduced our temporal rendering pipeline. The objective of temporal rendering pipeline is to render the temporal data sets which are temporally correlated based on the natural gaze dynamics. So based on the natural eye movements, like our gaze position, head rotation, and camera position, we render the synthetic data sets which are temporally correlated. To give the information about the gaze position and head position, we use the gaze-in-while datasets. This method can be used to any eye trackers dataset, but we have focused our work on a gaze-in-while datasets, which was captured during people doing the natural tasks such as ball catching, indoor navigation, object search, and team making. It contains around 15 participants performing those tasks, and each video is around 3 minutes long. So the gaze-in-while dataset is captured using a Pupil Labs eye tracker, and the backbone of Pupil Labs eye tracker uses that you have it constructs a 3D model based on the number of the 2D pupil locations. So it contains the information about the 2D pupil as well as the 3D model pupil information. But it does not contain an important information about the upper and the lower eyelid movements. Upper and lower eyelid movements are important for the realism, that is realistic renderings of the eye information. We cannot use a randomized upper and lower eyelids. So what we do is we find the apex in the 2D image of the upper and the lower eyelids and project back to a 3D model as done for the pupil in the Pupil Labs eye tracker. Now we have the bones which can move based on the real eye videos. So the video shows the real data sets on the top left, synthetic data set generated on the top right. And the images are supported by the label 2D and the 3D segmentation maps. Additionally, our pipeline allows to use the same real eye video to generate multiple number of the synthetic images with varying race, gender, iris textures, skin textures, and so on. Here are some of the samples of the datasets. Overall, with the renderings, we make two datasets public. One is the rendering of a gaze-in-while dataset. Next is the non-contiguous images of OpenEDS. The OpenEDS dataset is for a hypothesis test of mixing the real world and the synthetic world to improve the performance of a real world. It follows the match distributions where we try to match the iris centers, the pupil overall pupil contours and iris contours, and it is a wider distributions and large number of images compared to the original OpenEDS. We also try to quantify the quality of the renderings, and to quantify this quality of renderings, we use a technique that is popular in anomaly detections, where we train an autoencoder in the real images, and during inference time, we test the latent space representations of real dataset and synthetic datasets and try to find how much it varies. On this particular note, I want to highlight the two datasets of our interest. The renderings of the gaze-in-while, original gaze-in-while is similar to that of the synthetic gaze-in-while, and for OpenEDS is similar to the synthetic OpenEDS. But there is still a domain gap, and maybe the techniques like image translations, mixing real to a synthetic data set seems to be a good solution to train the machine learning algorithms. Overall, our contribution is to have a pipeline that generates the synthetic sequences of gaze data based on the natural gaze dynamics, and a new algorithm to model the eyes from a near-infrared eye images, and to use that particular information in the Blender pipeline. The another is we release the two publicly available datasets, public datasets, which can be used to study the static mirror imagery by mixing the real images with synthetic images, or just training on synthetic images and testing the performance on the real images. Or we also provide a dataset which has a gaze sequence, so which follows the natural gaze dynamics and which can be used to study the various eye movements, also to improve the gaze estimation algorithms.